All right, buckle in because this is a really big line for Georgia and LSU. The Dogs. Now I've seen this a couple of different places. I'm going to give the lowest line. Georgia is a 16.5 point favorite to beat LSU on Championship Saturday in Atlanta. This has gone as high as almost 20. So th- they're needless to say, this is almost the largest of all of the lines. The Purdue Michigan game is pretty big as well, 16. Clemson has jumped up a little bit to 8 from 7 and trying to win the ACC championship for the first time since the COVID year. And yeah, I mean, we've got some tight games with SC and TCU, both slight favorites. USC is a 1.5 point favorite over Utah. Texas Christian a 2.5 point favorite over Kansas State, who they played. Both these are rematches for both schools. TCU beat Kansas State in October sometime, and then Utah obviously beat USC at home. That USC is a slight favorite in Vegas. I mean, that tells you something right there. That's going to be a tight one. I think a lot of people are going to be watching that game. Georgia LSU was going to be, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a big game, no doubt about it. But, you're not talking about a top 10 matchup anymore. Um, it's just, Georgia's considered a prohibitive favorite. And it does feel like we're running up to the NCAA tournament in spring where, you've got a lot of really good teams trying to jockey their way to be the one seeds. And then you've got other teams just trying to get into the tournament. And I don't think TCU's in that position. It seems like TCU is probably in position to get in right now, but USC definitely has to win. I just don't see any other way around it. So that Friday night is going to be a very serious deal with USC and Utah. For Georgia, we're going to talk to Brian Kelly and Kirby Smart here in a little bit. This is a huge game. It's the largest, it's the highest ticket. It's not the ticket wasn't what it was, but it's near $200 just to get in. With LSU just getting pounded last night against Texas A&M, the ticket prices have fallen. But this is a challenging game for Georgia. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, you're playing a team that has legitimate, real deal athletes. I mean, like LSU is the real deal in terms of kids. The problem is they don't have the depth they once had. They don't have a special quarterback like they did with Joe Burrow. That's for sure. They don't have a special defense like they did in 2011. I expect Georgia to win this game, just period. Whether they cover the line that is fluctuating, I don't know the answer to that. It's also, this game and the Michigan Purdue game have a lot in common. They both have the over under is right on top of 50. So in that case, I think that means that Georgia and Michigan would win this game would win their games somewhere around the 30 to, let's see, 34 to 14 mark, something like that. Maybe a little bit not as lopsided, 30, let's say 31 to 17, something like that. It's that those are not overwhelmingly competitive games. And 31-17, yeah, I mean it'd be probably 33 to 17 would be right on top of where this thing is going to land. That's a pretty big beating. And I don't, I'll tell you right now, a lot of y'all watch this. Just want to make sure this real quick. We've got these very limited edition Kelee Ringo-Signed DAWGSTRUCTIONs. These are not going to last. And very appreciative of Kelee signing it. Well, I don't know if we're going to do any more of these. So unless some other person orders like a box of DAWGSTRUCTION, which has not been happening, like some other vendor, then these are one of a kind of deals. They're very limited edition. So go ahead and pick those up today. I'm sending them out starting on Monday morning. Get that now before Christmas gets too close, and I can't get it to you in time, or I run out of them, which I think I'm probably going to run out of them. But there's a lot at play here for Georgia. Let me just go through the scenarios. Number one, You can win your 14th SEC championship. That would put you number 2 all time by yourself, no ties, in league history. It would cement you as the second best program in the history of the league. Everybody else can talk, but you've got the trophies. Secondly, uh, and more, I guess more importantly, perhaps, if you win this game, you will almost certainly play in Atlanta in your first game. And now, who that will go against, I don't know. It could be USC, could it be Texas Christian, it could be Ohio State, but no one's going to outfan Georgia in Atlanta, and that gives you a decided advantage. A year ago, when Georgia played Michigan, one of the few fan bases that can keep up with Georgia, that was a lopsided amount of fans that were there for Michigan. That game was probably 60-40, 70, 65, 35, something like that. There were way more Michigan fans there than I had seen in any Georgia game, competitively speaking, in a long time. That won't be the case in Atlanta. I can tell you that right now. And there were a couple of things that were going on there with a season ago. Number one, Georgia just played an extremely expensive SEC championship game. Number two, they were saving money for the national championship. I think a lot of people said, "Hey, they're going to have to get through Miami, and if they get through Miami, I'm buying Indianapolis, but I'm not doing all three. I'm not doing Atlanta, Miami, and Indianapolis." I had a buddy of mine not that long ago that said, "Where do these Alabama people get all this money from to go to the games? They're not traveling anymore. They're not. I mean, they were way outnumbered in Indianapolis by the Georgia folks." And I think that would be the case again this year for Georgia, particularly because you can do the back-to-back in Atlanta. So it's a huge advantage. It's one of the reasons the Big Ten complains a lot. But, if you can get this game and strangle it, it would be a huge, advantage to Georgia. If they were playing someone other than Michigan in South Beach, I think they probably would have had more fans. But this is the ability to have a home crowd for, 3 times in Mercedes-Benz. Beginning of the season against Oregon, SEC championship against LSU is going to be lopsided towards Georgia for sure. And then the first game of the college football playoff. What's the word? Those are the games that advantage really helps you. The offsides, the not being able to communicate, it becomes a road game for whoever Georgia's playing. That's what you're playing for Saturday. So that you're playing LSU is going to be challenging enough, but all I'm saying is this is going to be a real test for Kirby and company to get off to a good start. We've not seen that these last 2 games. And against Kentucky, it was weather for sure. And against Georgia Tech, Tech just outplayed Georgia for the first quarter. Certainly the first drive, maybe. Let's just call it that. So, Georgia's offense, you'd be looking to have the same sort of start that we've seen at other times against Oregon, South Carolina, Tennessee, I think, except the fumble. Florida. I mean, I feel like Georgia's had some pretty good first halves. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but it's been the second half where Georgia's really strangled folks. And a line this high gives you an indication, that Georgia has a pretty substantial. The view is that Georgia has a pretty substantial chance to win this game. It's up to them to do it. I mean, this team and this program, it's not, not just one of these that's out there. I mean, there is another one out there to be had. The thing that strikes me about this team right now is there's no real panic when they sort of get in trouble, for lack of a better term. I mean, they were losing to Missouri for the bulk of that game. They, of course, were losing to Georgia Tech for the first however long it was. And then, but they don't really panic when you talk to Kelee Ringo or Stetson or whoever. They know they can make adjustments. They know that their practices are harder than their games. And Stetson said yesterday, we play football. We practice football. Guys tackle. And he said, I don't really have to go that hard because I'm not tackling anybody, but it's true. And these guys are hard-nosed, tough individuals. And I think that what's happening is you're seeing that in the run game totals. I wrote this in Leggy Sauce today, but in the last 5 games, Georgia's had something like over 1,000 yards rushing and the other teams combined, and these are combined, have not even gone over 350 yards in those 5 games. I mean, Georgia's really slowed the run for the other team, and they have really exploded on the other team themselves in the run game. It doesn't seem that great at times, but they're going to do what they do, and it's going to be grinding you up and spitting you out. So that's what the challenge is against LSU. I'll have more about LSU as the week goes on. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.